The Sweet Hereafter film. The Sweet Hereafter is a 1997 Canadian drama film written and directed by Atom Egoyan, starring Ian Holm, Sarah Polley, and Bruce Greenwood, and adapted from the 1991 novel by Russell Banks. The film tells the story of a school bus accident in a small town that kills 14 children. A class action lawsuit ensues, proving divisive in the community and becoming tied with personal and family issues. The film, inspired by the 1989 Alton, Texas bus crash, was filmed in British Columbia and Ontario, incorporating a film score with medieval music influences and references to the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Although The Sweet Hereafter was not a box office success, it was critically acclaimed and won 3 awards, including the Grand Prix at the 1997 Cannes Film Festival, along with 7 Genie Awards, including Best Motion Picture. It also received 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay. Toronto International Film Festival critics named The Sweet Hereafter one of the top 10 Canadian films of all time. Plot: in the small town of Samdent, British Columbia, a school bus hits a patch of ice, runs through a barrier, and crashes into a lake, killing 14 children. The grieving parents are approached by an out-of-town lawyer, Michelle Stevens, who is haunted by his dysfunctional relationship with his drug-addicted daughter. Stevens persuades the reluctant parents and bus driver Dolores Driscoll to file a class action lawsuit against the town and bus company for damages, arguing that the accident is a result of negligence in constructing the barrier or the bus. The case depends on coaching the few surviving witnesses to say the right things in court, particularly Nicole Burnell, a 15-year-old paralyzed from the waist down as a result of the accident. Before the accident, Nicole was an aspiring musician and was being sexually abused by her father, Sam. One bereft parent, Billy Ansell, distrusts Stevens and pressures Sam to drop the case. Nicole overhears their argument. In the pre-trial deposition, Nicole unexpectedly accuses the bus driver Dolores of speeding, halting the lawsuit. Stevens and Sam know she is lying but can do nothing. 2 years later, Stevens sees Dolores working as a bus driver in a city. Cast, production, adaptation. Canadian director Atom Egoyan adapted the screenplay after his wife, actress Arsene Kanjian, suggested he read Russell Banks' The Sweet Hereafter. The novel is inspired by an incident in Alton, Texas in 1989, in which a bus crash killed 21 students, leading to multiple lawsuits. Egoyan found it initially challenging to acquire the rights, as they had been optioned to another studio that was not actually producing it. Shortly before the option expired, novelist Margaret Atwood suggested to Egoyan that he meet with Banks personally after the director's success with the film Exotica 1994, and Banks was willing to grant him the rights. Egoyan later stated he was drawn to filming the novel because he felt film is for confronting the most extreme things. As an Armenian Canadian, he also saw the story as a metaphor for the Armenian genocide, in which those guilty had not accepted responsibility. In adapting the novel, Egoyan changed the setting from upstate New York to British Columbia to help secure Canadian funding. He also added references to the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin by Robert Browning to emphasize how Egoyan saw The Sweet Hereafter as a grim fairy tale. Nicole is seen reading the Pied Piper to children who later die in the accident. In that story, the Pied Piper leads all the children away, never to return, after their parents refuse to honor their debt to him. Egoyan wrote a new stanza in the Pied Piper style for the scene in which Nicole testifies Dolores was speeding, in which she describes her father's lips as frozen as the winter moon. Egoyan also made Michelle Stevens the main character and increased the importance of Stevens' daughter and moved the reveal of incest between the Burnells to later in the film. Filming. The film was shot in British Columbia Merritt and Spence's Bridge in Ontario, Toronto, and Stouffville on a budget of $5 million. Funding came from the company Alliance Communications. Egoyan assembled many Canadian actors he had worked with in prior films, including Bruce Greenwood, Gabrielle Rose, and Sarah Polley. Egoyan explained the benefit of working with a familiar cast, saying when you're working on a limited production schedule, it's a comfort to know that you know the personalities involved, you know what they need as opposed to having to discover that and be surprised by that. Ian Holm was cast as Mitchell Stevens after the actor originally set to play the character, Donald Sutherland, quit the project. In casting the part, Egoyan was inspired by Holmes' strangely compassionate, yet furtive and menacing performance in The Homecoming 1973. Holm explained why he accepted the role, saying, "It's not often you get offered a leading role at age 65. Holm called his part challenging, as it was his first lead, but he found Egoyan and the Canadian actors to be great to work with. Music. The Pied Piper references influenced composer Mikhail Dana's music, which uses a Persian ney flute along with old instruments, such as recorders, crumhorns, and lutes, creating a pseudo-medieval score. The score thus combined Dana's interests in old and exotic music. Egoyan stated medieval-style music was used to make the film feel timeless, evoking Brothers Grimm fairy tales and avoiding the feel of a TV movie. Polley's character, Nicole, is an aspiring singer before the accident, and is seen on stage performing Jane Siberry's One More Color. Dana and Polley cooperated to create Nicole's music, with Polley writing lyrics to Dana's original songs, and Dana arranging the adaptations of Courage and One More Color. The songs were chosen because of their domestic popularity, reinforcing the local nature of Nicole's music. The Tragically Hip's original version of Courage also appears in the film. Release. The film debuted at the Cannes Film Festival in May 1997 and went on to play at the Toronto International Film Festival, Telluride Film Festival, New York Film Festival, and Valladolid International Film Festival. In Canada, the film was distributed by Alliance Communications. Following its screening at Cannes, Fine Line Features secured rights for the film for distribution in the United States, releasing it there on October 10, 1997. In Region 1, The Sweet Hereafter was released on DVD in May 1998. In Canada, the film had a Blu-ray release in June 2012, with special features including interviews. Reception. Box office. By the spring of 1998, The Sweet Hereafter had grossed $1 million domestically. According to the numbers, The Sweet Hereafter grossed $4,306,697 in North America and $3,644,500 in other territories, for a worldwide total of $7,951,247. Although Canadian historian George Melnick said the film achieved mainstream popularity, another Canadian historian, Reginald C. Stewart, said that the film aimed for, but did not reach, a mass audience. Dan Webster of the Spokesman Review concluded that despite generally good reviews, the film never attracted much box office attention. The Writers Guild of Canada commented that The Sweet Hereafter in contemporary Canadian films never succeeded in scoring a home run at the international box office. Melnick suggested Egoyan's previous film Exotica performed better at the box office than The Sweet Hereafter because of Exotica's sexual content, rather than the early film's artistic merit. Critical reception. The film holds a 98% rating at Rotten Tomatoes, with an average score of 8.91/10 based on 59 reviews, and a 100% rating from 18 top critic reviews. The site's consensus reads, "Director Atom Egoyan examines tragedy and its aftermath with intelligence and empathy." On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 90 out of 100, based on 23 critics, indicating universal acclaim. In 2002, readers of Playback voted it the greatest Canadian film ever made. In 2004, The Toronto International Film Festival ranked it third in the top 10 Canadian films of all time, tied with Going Down the Road, and in 2015, it was the sole film in the third spot. Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars, calling it one of the best films of the year, an unflinching lament for the human condition. Janet Maslin, writing for the New York Times, said this fusion of Mr. Banksy's and Mr. Egoyan's sensibilities stands as a particularly inspired mix, with Sarah Polley and Bruce Greenwood particularly good here. Brendan Kelly of Variety praised The Sweet Hereafter as Egoyan's most ambitious work to date, and as a rich, complex meditation. Paul Tatar of CNN called The Sweet Hereafter devastating and wrote Ian Holm gives the performance of his hugely impressive career. David Denby of New York Magazine said that the film had Ian Holm's greatest role in the movies, and the cast are all excellent. The film made over 250 critics' top 10 lists for the best films of 1997. In 2004, Slovenian critic Slavoj Zizek called The Sweet Hereafter arguably the film about the impact of trauma on a community. That year, the New York Times also included the film on its list of the best 1,000 movies ever made. In 2011, British director Cleo Barnard praised the real depth and healthy ambiguity of the story and described Holm and Polley as brilliant, giving powerful, subtle performances. 1 year later, the AV Club named The Sweet Hereafter the 22nd best film of the 1990s, praising it as a masterpiece of adaptation. Accolades. The Sweet Hereafter won 3 awards at the 1997 Cannes Film Festival, the Fipresci Prize, the Grand Prize of the Jury, and the Prize of the Ecumenical Jury. This was the highest honor won at Cannes for a Canadian film and made Egoyan the first Canadian to win the Grand Prix, followed by Xavier Dolan with its Only the End of the World in 2016. The Sweet Hereafter also won Best Motion Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Actor for Holm, and 3 other prizes at the 18th Genie Awards. It was nominated for Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay at the 70th Academy Awards, but lost to Titanic and L.A. Confidential, respectively.